Welcome to the Virtual Women's Funding Summit. My name is Melissa Bula McGinnis, and I am the tech lead with WMarketplace.com, an online marketplace where you can shop and support women entrepreneurs. Or if you're a woman-owned business, you can sell your products or services and access training through our sponsored Her Commerce program. We are honored to be co-hosting today's event with our partners, the U.S. Commercial Service, the Small Business Administration, and the Export Finance Assistance Center of Washington. Up first, I'm pleased to introduce you to Terry Batch, Senior International Trade Specialist and Director of the Global Diversity Export Initiative at the U.S. Commercial Service. Terry, welcome.
Good morning. Good morning. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay.
Let's start your video.
All right, great.
And let's spotlight you. All right.
All right, I should say good morning and good afternoon. Thank you for joining us. If you haven't already in the chat, a lot of our participants have been placing where they're calling in from in the chat, and it's quite an impressive group. There are people, and I want to say ladies, that have joined us from all over the country today. I see everyone from Ursula with Exim Bank, Patty with SBA from Denver, and folks that have joined us from Vancouver, Washington. Shayla, Shay Latte Coffee that's joined us. I see New Jersey, Atlanta, California, Detroit, Michigan. I mean, this is truly a national event. So welcome, welcome, welcome. We're so glad you're here. And we have an exciting program for you today. Welcome to the Virtual Women's Funding Summit. My name is Terry Batch. I am the director of our Global Diversity Export Initiative. I'm also a senior international trade specialist, and I'm based in Los Angeles, California. For those of you who are not familiar with the U.S. Commercial Service, we are a part of the International Trade Administration, and we're known as the export promotion arm of the International Trade Administration. We are truly a global federal agency. Not only do we have offices in over 100 cities here in the US, but we also work with more than 70 countries around the world with our staff in our embassies and consulates. And the world is full of potential customers, and we are in a position to help you reach them. So why are we hosting this event, you might ask? And we haven't done an event like this before, but I'm so glad that we are, because this summit came about from a discussion with some of our colleagues at the Seattle office, Ms. Lisa White and Diane Mooney, and also the International Trade Administration strategic partners, including the Export Finance Assistance Center of Washington, and also the WMarketplace, who's our co-host today. And they were talking about e-commerce marketplace for women-owned businesses. And when we asked what are women clients, what do you most need to be able to grow your businesses, to go online and to go global, the universal theme emerged of access to capital. This is something like every day we are hearing this in terms of the need for companies to be able to take advantage of all the opportunities that exist in international markets. Our Secretary of Commerce, Gina Raimondo, she said that America's diversity is a competitive advantage, but only if we give everyone an opportunity to participate and fulfill their potential. And that means women, and that means people of color, and that also means people who live in rural areas and on tribal lands. And that is where the Global Diversity Export Initiative comes in. That is what we do with the Global Export Initiative. It is our way of expanding our outreach so that we make sure that we're reaching communities across the country that have been historically underserved and underrepresented in international trade. And we also, we're doing that for export promotion and also inward investment resources. So for women and minority-owned businesses. Our program leverages the International Trade Administration strategic partners with organizations that serve women-owned businesses, such as today's co-host, the WMarketplace, and also the Export Finance Assistance Center of Washington. And we work with them to help promote the export assistance tools and services to a diverse community of women and minority-led businesses. So we have a great program for you today. I'm so excited that we have some dynamic speakers. We have dynamic organizations that are going to share with you valuable information about getting funded for your company. But before we kick off, we have two very special guests. And I want to turn the program over for you to hear. But before we meet our lenders and funders and venture capital investors, I want to turn it over to Ms. Diane Farrell, who is our Deputy Undersecretary for the International Trade Administration. And then we'll also hear from one of our Deputy Administrators with the Small Business Administration. So Diane, the floor is yours.
Well, thanks, Terry. I'm so thrilled to be here. I'm so proud of you, Terry. Folks should know that I've had I've just been very fortunate to work with Terry for a period of years. She's taken on the Global Diversity Export Initiative with the same kind of enthusiasm, passion, gusto, energy that I would expect, the way she attacks everything. She's an amazing advocate. She's an advocate all the way around, and she's just a shining example of what the US government really does offer. The best people are out there to be supportive of you. And it's a thrill to look in the chat and see so many cities, towns, and states represented across the United States as part of this gathering. I want to thank the Women's Funding Summit, because this is just an excellent idea whose time has definitely come, especially as we're attempting to move out of the pandemic, to adapt to the recoveries, the economic recoveries that are necessary as we look at hopefully the receding of a global pandemic, but the impacts, but as well the opportunities. So what I'm going to do in the next couple of minutes is start with a scene setter. I have a number of statistics that I think are relevant just to get the conversation started, especially the breakout sessions that look fantastic. And you've got wonderful both discussion leaders as well as experts in the finance area. And, you know, before I came to the Commerce Department, I was actually on the board of directors of the U.S. Export-Import Bank, and I had small businesses as my portfolio. So I'm delighted to be here with my SBA colleagues, my XM colleagues, and I know what the federal government can do to help businesses, and we want to make sure that you know as well what we can do for you to ensure a bright future for you, your families, your coworkers, and ultimately for our citizens writ large across the United States. So a couple of stats that I'm going to start with. First, according to data from the U.S. Census Bureau, another Commerce Department bureau, there are nearly 13 million women-owned businesses in the United States. An estimated 10 million people are employed by women-owned companies, and they generate nearly $1.8 trillion in annual revenue. I'm going to put a little bit of an insert here because our secretary, Gina Raimondo, who Terry just mentioned, is number one, the former first woman governor of the state of Rhode Island. Number two, her private sector experience was as a co-founder of a venture capital firm in Rhode Island. So she really gets it. And between our secretary, our deputy secretary, our undersecretary, and the president, the vice president, the idea of making sure, and I'm very fond of this expression, but you know, all boats rise in a high tide. This is the idea, is that we make sure that we are seeing positive growth in all areas, all facets of our economy, with a special emphasis on those who perhaps have been overlooked or just haven't been as aware of the opportunities that we want to offer to them as part of their supportive partnerships coming from the federal government. So important to recognize that the woman who pays our paycheck, Terry's, mine, Diane's, Lisa's, and I think I've got some other colleagues on here, is in fact someone who's a former venture capitalist and who really gets it when we talk about our priorities. So we also know that women in business are still at a disadvantage when it comes to financial access to capital, no question about it. And we also have to say, as I mentioned at the top, the past few years have been especially challenging because of the global pandemic, specifically to women-owned businesses. The 2022 Biz to Credit Women-Owned Business, which analyzed 100,000 firms and has been cited by Forbes and CNBC, found that the cost of doing business rose significantly in 2021. Not going to come as a surprise to anybody. This was particularly in the areas of labor costs, fuel costs, raw materials, and inventory prices that have skyrocketed because of supply chain disruptions. According to the same study, these economic pressures hurt women-owned firms especially hard, as supply chain shortages also negatively impacted the earning potential of small businesses. While the average annual revenue for female-owned businesses declined by 4%, those of male-owned companies experienced a decline of only 2%. Women-owned business profits for 2021 decreased by 26% from the previous year and were 35% less than the average for male-owned firms in 2021. When comparing male-owned and female-owned business financials, the numbers underscore a larger problem. Women-owned companies are experiencing a revenue gap. Part of this is because more men are applying for business loans. According to the study in 2021, only 33% of business loan applications were made by woman-owned firms versus 67% for male business loan applications. The average loan size for women-owned businesses was 41% lower than the average loan size for businesses owned by men in 2020. Women founders are also still underrepresented in venture capital. According to PitchBook data, companies founded solely by women faced disproportionate funding levels and garnered only 2% of dollars invested in VC-backed startups in the US throughout the year. And you can see why this is such a passion for our secretary particularly. So despite the somber statistics, there's also some room for optimism. A recent study by Kaufman found that there are more new women entrepreneurs now than at any time in over the past 25 years. In fact, women started 49% of new businesses in the US in 2021, up from 28% in 2019. Women and entrepreneurs of color are leading a boom in new business creation in the United States, according to a study by human resources company Gusto. From 2014 to 2019, the number of firms owned by women of color increased by 43%, according to American Express's State of Women-Owned Business Report. Over that same period, 3 times more Black or African-American entrepreneurs, both men and women, also started businesses. This share has tripled from 3% in 2019 to 9% in 2021. This is heartening news indeed, and yet we know there's more work to be done to support US women in business. So why is the International Trade Administration supporting this funding summit? What is the intersection of access to capital, international trade, and supporting women in business? Our agency's mission is to create prosperity by strengthening the international competitiveness of US industry. We work to support the US Department of Commerce's strategic goal to foster inclusive capitalism and equitable economic growth. Supporting capital access programs for women in business is an essential component of this mission. If you haven't yet considered exporting as part of your business growth strategy, you really should. Research shows that companies who export grow faster, employ more staff, withstand fluctuating sales cycles more successfully, and stay in business longer. Now, I've got a success story for you. This is the thing you're going to remember from all these remarks. Lisa White, do you want to put up the slide? There we go. Okay. As the old saying goes, put up a picture of cute kids or an animal and you win the audience over. We have a wonderful example for you of a company that we were able to help. And this is one of the success stories that we like to share. Lori Hagerman is the owner of a South Carolina-based company called Low Country Pet Specialties. Her company manufactures Mo-Bowl, a flexible water bowl for dogs. Domestic sales were down, and the company's fulfillment center was facing the possibility of layoffs. Lori's company had received interest in their flexible water bowls from a company in Austria, but she was hesitant since she was new to exporting and didn't know where to begin. Lori connected with our U.S. Commercial Service Office in Charleston for advice. Our team counseled Lori on fundamental aspects of exporting, including export compliance, logistics, documentation, and financing. They also connected Lori with our global trade experts based in Europe, who helped prepare Lori to export her mobiles to Austria. Thanks to assistance from the U.S. Commercial Service, Low Country Pet Specialties succeeded in exporting its products to Austria and closed a $75,000 sale. The sale had a significant positive impact on Lori's firm. Her fulfillment center was able to prevent a layoff due to the significant Austrian order. The order provided 5 to 6 weeks employment while the fulfillment center's other customers' products became available for packaging. Sadly, we're going to have to say goodbye to Mobile, but do treasure that picture. So I'd like to highlight a few of the programs the International Trade Administration has launched to support women in business as they grow their businesses internationally. In January 2021, the International Trade Administration's Global Markets, U.S. Commercial Service, and Office of the Middle East and Africa launched a Women's Trade Investment Initiative, which offers U.S. government support for business women engaged in trade and investment. At TradeWinds 2021, the largest government trade mission, U.S. women business leaders were invited to join virtual discussions with women entrepreneurs across Africa and the Middle East to learn about export opportunities and make connections with potential business partners. In the fall of 2021, a USG interagency working group with representatives from all trade-related agencies hosted a virtual program, Startup Global Women, in partnership with the Global Innovation Forum for Women Entrepreneurs, to hear insights and advice from women-led startups that have gone global, technology providers, and government trade experts on the benefits of building a global business from day one. We have also launched a dedicated resource page on our website, trade.gov, called the Women's Global Trade Empowerment Program, which lists women-focused business programs such as this one, also on-demand training, links to resource partners, and features successful women exporters' stories. I encourage you to check it out and consider it a valuable resource. I'm also pleased to say that we sent the first all-women trade mission to the Farnborough Air Show this past summer. And next month, our Undersecretary, Marisa Lago, will be leading a Women in Tech trade mission to France, the Netherlands, and Portugal. You're all here today because you're interested in learning about the different types of funding and financing programs to help your businesses. We have an excellent lineup of speakers representing a diverse range of funding and financial opportunities from traditional lending to venture capital. We are honored to be collaborating with SBA on this program today. Not only do we have 3 certified SBA lenders, we also have a representative from the SBA Office of International Trade, and we are honored to be joined by the SBA Deputy Associate Administrator, Claire Amon, who will be providing remarks right after mine. The SBA Trade Finance session will be especially relevant to those of you who are interested in exporting but need working capital to scale up. Each of the finance speakers has also invited one of their clients, a woman in business, to share the spotlight with them during their breakout session. From their stories, you'll learn what steps they took to apply for financing and hear how capital has impacted their business. So I encourage you to make the most of today's program. It is all about connection. And that's why I love seeing the chat light up so much. Connecting with the lenders, funders, and investors who will share information about their funding and financing programs, and to become inspired by the stories you hear from women in business during the breakout sessions. You're connecting with the SBA to learn more about their capital access programs and business assistance. You're connecting with strategic partner programs on the call and learn more about their programs for women in business. And connecting with your local U.S. Commercial Service office to learn how we can help your business go global. Thanks so much for inviting me to be here with you today. I'd now be very pleased to turn the program back over to Terry. Have a great time, learn from each other, share your stories, and let's stay connected. Stay connected. Thanks.
Thank you, Diane. It's so great that you're able to join us and offer opening remarks. Diane is a great champion of women and all the work that we're doing in the GDEI space here in ITA. At this time, it is my honor to introduce the Small Business Administration's Deputy Associate Administrator of International Trade, Ms. Claire Amon. She is responsible for helping U.S. small businesses grow by reaching new customers in the global marketplace. They have 21 U.S. export assistance centers, many of them co-located with us out here in the field, and SBA district offices, as well as public and private sector partners with the Office of International Trade direct export loan programs. And they also manage the State Trade Expansion Program, which, if you're not familiar with STEP, that is one of your first steps that you want to take to get support in helping you to expand to international markets. But I don't want to steal Claire's thunder. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Claire. And Claire, just one moment. If you guys have not introduced yourself in the chat, I encourage you to introduce yourself in the chat. The chat is on fire and there's connections being made in the chat. And I've already asked our colleagues if we can save the chat and make it available to everyone, so that folks that are introducing themselves and their business and putting your contact information in there, we'll be able to share it amongst the participants and for you to follow up and to make those connections, because we know that when women connect with other women, there's a lot of magic that happens. So thank you if you've introduced yourself already, and if you haven't, please do so. And with that, Claire, I'd like to turn it over to you.
Thank you so much, Terry. And I definitely agree. I am enjoying the chat. And also thank you to Diane. I really also enjoyed that mobile success story. And I can't think of a better way to kick off a summit like this with pictures of cute dogs. So thank you very much. Also, thank you to the Commerce Department and the Global Diversity Export Initiative for hosting this Women's Funding Summit. You know, as Diane said, this discussion really couldn't come at a more important time. We've all seen the number of women entrepreneurs and women-owned businesses increasing over the last couple of decades. When you consider that there were just 400,000 women-owned small businesses in 1972, and there's over 12 million today, it really reveals that we've been living during a historic period of achievements by U.S. women entrepreneurs. So to all the women entrepreneurs joining us today, I'd like to say thank you for what you do to innovate, solve problems, and advance economic equity in our communities. As our SBA Administrator, Isabella Casillas Guzman, says, we are in your corner. It's really an exciting time to be at the SBA, where we get to see firsthand that the American dream of entrepreneurship is alive and well. In the US, 7.8 million people applied to start a business just in the first 18 months of the pandemic, more than any other year on record. Our goal is always to help them succeed and grow. And it's particularly exciting to see that women, especially women of color, continue to lead the way with the highest startup rate, as they have for over a decade. They're also one of the most impactful segments of the business community, with exponential growth in women-owned employer firms. Right now, women entrepreneurs start and own nearly half of all businesses in the United States and generate up to $1.8 trillion in revenue and represent all industries in our economy. But there's still huge opportunities to help women-owned small businesses scale, including by taking that next step from a sole proprietor to an employer firm and employing people. Despite exponential growth, only 20.8% of the small businesses that are majority owned by women are employer firms. This opportunity also shows us the importance of addressing the gaps. Women entrepreneurs and small business owners face unique and different challenges to growth. We know that the pandemic really highlighted these gaps, including that many women-owned businesses did not have existing banking relationships, which made it initially harder to get a PPP loan. It also highlighted the need to increase the resilience of women-owned small businesses, as many of them were in sectors that were disproportionately impacted by the pandemic, including consumer goods like clothing, jewelry, and cosmetics, tourism, and education, just to name a few industries. But also we know that women themselves pivoted, they adapted and digitized and found ways to keep going. Through entrepreneurship, they created their own lifelines, starting new businesses at record rates and forging a path forward. The SBA is really committed to creating an inclusive entrepreneurial support ecosystem so that many of our new, as well as our established women entrepreneurs, can successfully pursue their American dreams of starting, growing, and building resilient businesses. And that begins with addressing the barriers that for far too long have kept them from growing and preparing them for the future with the funding and the resources that they need. So one of the ways we're doing that is by ensuring that women entrepreneurs and small business owners can tap SBA counseling and mentorship support to rebuild themselves and continue to lead. Under the leadership of Administrator Guzman, SBA has invested nearly $70 million to expand the national network of women's business centers to all 50 states and DC and Puerto Rico, bringing the total number of women's business centers to 146. There's also 3 times as many women's business centers at historically Black colleges and universities, Hispanic serving institutions, and other minority serving institutions. The Women's Business Center Network is the largest ever SBA network serving women entrepreneurs to help them retool, access resources, and get to scale. This is in addition to our other SBA resource partners and the Community Navigators, which was a pilot network launched as part of President Biden's American Rescue Plan, with trusted partners in underserved communities that are helping SBA bridge the outreach gap through trusted, culturally knowledgeable local groups and individuals. We know that access to digital and online training platforms also really remains critical to supporting women entrepreneurs. Earlier this year, SBA launched the Small Business Digital Alliance to help meet that need and support small businesses with resources, training, and more to help them increase their digital presence effectively and safely. We know that knowledge is power, and the SBA also has an on-demand online training platform called the Ascent platform that's specifically designed to help women-owned small business owners to scale. Ascent offers practical, tactical information on all aspects of running and growing a small business. One of the segments, known as Journeys of the Ascent platform, leads women entrepreneurs through the financing steps, from accessing to capital from debt and equity financing to building banking relationships. Just this month, Ascent also launched a new growing global journey that helps women explore expanding their businesses through international trade. And my office, the SBA Office of International Trade, provides export education and counseling to U.S. small businesses, including through webinars and our international trade hotline. One of our best practices is to provide export finance counseling to help small businesses prepare themselves to approach an SBA lending partner. Having somebody ask the tough questions first really can make all the difference in achieving success. Of course, we also know that having access to markets, both domestic and international, is important. SBA's Office of International Trade works to enhance the ability of small businesses to compete in the global marketplace by helping them to sell internationally and to finance their export sales. We advocate for small businesses in the interagency trade policy development process and in trade negotiations to ensure that U.S. trade initiatives open opportunities for small businesses in foreign markets. The SBA works very closely with our federal partners, including the Commerce Department, to leverage the strength and nationwide reach of the SBA's network of field offices and resource partners, including our women's business centers, to encourage small businesses to participate in global trade. There's really a lot of opportunity for small business growth in overseas markets. U.S. small business exports are big business, with small businesses representing 98% of all U.S. exporters, and 33% of U.S. export value comes from small businesses. As Diane also mentioned, businesses that export are more resilient. They reduce their dependency on one single market. Businesses that export last on average 10 years longer than their counterparts. They have 3 times as many employees, and they have twice as many sales. So exporting is one way to increase market access. Federal contracting is another. This year, the SBA announced the return of Challenge Her, a free government contracting education initiative to help women-owned small businesses gain access to federal contracts and encourage participation in the SBA Women-Owned Small Business Federal Contract Program. But of course, this is a finance summit, and foremost, we need to ensure that women have equity in accessing capital. As our administrator has said, when women have economic power, they are more empowered to have an impact in their homes, in their communities, in their countries, and globally. Small businesses borrow mainly for 4 reasons: to start a business, to purchase inventory, to expand, or to strengthen the firm's financial health. Firms choose different means of financing depending on their intended purpose. We know from SBA research that, like other businesses, women-owned employer firms use a wide range of capital to start, and that 41% of women business owners tend to start with capital amounts less than $10,000. Additionally, we know that women are less likely to use bank loans compared to their male counterparts. The pandemic relief efforts, as I said, showed us that many women-owned businesses did not have existing relationships with a bank, And we know this is concerning beyond the pandemic, since an early relationship with a bank may be critical for your future business financing. And for far too long, the financing and investment world has been an old boy network. In 2020, only 2.3% of venture capital funding went to women-led startups. However, under the leadership of Administrator Guzman, the SBA is driving change by modeling equity in our own lending, investment, and federal grant programs, including the Small Business Innovation Research Program and the Small Business Technology Transfer Program, the world's largest source of early-stage public finance. And we're doing the same with our Small Business Investment Company Program, which issues debt to venture capitalists, private equity funds, and other vehicles to invest in America's small but scaling businesses. The SBA also provides commercial lenders with guarantee incentives to fund small businesses. In 2022, SBA-backed loans totaled $38 billion. The SBA provides a range of loans for different business needs, including term loans and working capital products up to $5 million, and smaller loans designed for growing firms up to $500,000. If you're a U.S. small business that is exporting, the SBA also has a suite of 3 specific export loan guarantee programs that support export needs ranging from working capital to purchase order financing. And then, as Terry mentioned, in addition to loan financing, we also have a grant program, the State Trade Expansion Program, or STEP. Through our participating U.S. states and territories, the STEP program provides grants to reimburse small businesses for costs associated with a wide variety of export development activities, including learning how to export, attending trade shows, finding foreign buyers, and pursuing international e-commerce. And then, of course, we know if you're starting a small business, a microloan might be the first place to start, which are handled by SBA certified development companies. The new Community Advantage pilot program helps small businesses access larger microloan amounts up to $350,000 and prepare for more conventional lending. Many of our microlenders and lenders in the Community Advantage program are part of the Women's Business Centers or other organizations that are focused on underrepresented groups helping to increase access. So in conclusion, as Administrator Guzman has said, we the SBA want to be the bridge between rebuilding and thriving for all women entrepreneurs, not only because it's the right thing to do, but also because it's good business. And in fact, the future of our economy depends on it. We know that as women prosper, countries thrive. To accomplish our goal of women-led business growth, we see financing as a foundation of the bridge to an equitable economic future and fully empowered women. I want to thank you so much for the opportunity to address you today. I wish you a really productive summit and good luck on all of your journeys. And I'll pass it back now to Terry with the U.S. Commercial Service. Thank you.
Thank you, Claire. As you guys can all see, the SBA is doing a lot of amazing work, and I hope that you're plugged in to the resources that they provide to support you and help you to grow. At this time, what we're going to do is we're going to give a preview of all the lenders and funders who will be leading breakout sessions today. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a 5-minute intro. And I got my clock going, ladies. So we're going to do a 5-minute intro for each of the funders that are represented throughout the day, that will have a woman-owned business that will speak about how they utilize their products. And then I also have to give a shout out to my colleagues that will be moderating. We have women that we've reached out to throughout the U.S. that will be moderating each of the sessions, and they're all international trade specialists in our export assistance centers. So you're going to be inundated with commercial service and who we are and what we do and how we can support you. But we're also bringing these other resources to the table to really describe how you can leverage them and how do you access them, how do you use them for your business. So at this time, I'd like to invite our first speaker, Jennifer Riggenbaugh, to turn on her camera and introduce herself and her organization. Jennifer, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Terry. Hi, everyone. So I'm Jennifer Riggenbaugh. I'm a senior SBA specialist with KeyBank National Association. We operate out of 15 states across the country and offer products for consumers and businesses of all sizes in most industries. I'll be speaking on SBA programs, specifically the 7A Guarantee Program and the 504 program. The 7A program encompasses a lot of loans types that you may have heard: Express, Export Express, Small Loan Advantage, Cap Lines, and others. KeyBank is an SBA preferred lender, which basically means that we have credit authority for the vast majority of our SBA loans and do not have to submit everything to the SBA for a full review. It's important to know who out there has that preferred lender authority and that maybe has a little more experience with those SBA loan programs. The SBA program is actually a source of pride and joy for us, especially those of us like me who work within it. For the SBA's recently ended fiscal year, which was just September 30th, we funded more than 800 loans totaling $314 million in support of small businesses. Sometimes I know some people don't know what those numbers may mean to them, but to me, it means that, you know, we're not only approving loans to small businesses, we're getting the funding out to them to help them grow, help them expand, and help them even start up. So the loans that we do range from small lines of credit to assist businesses in managing their capital, up to larger loans for real estate and business acquisition, and every business need in between. Let's have startups, tenant improvements, inventory needs, debt restructure. We work with a range of businesses, from those that are just starting up and haven't earned their first dollar of revenue yet, to those that are more established and might be generating as much as $10 million a year or more. And many of those small businesses we have assisted and continue to assist are owned in part or in full by women. KeyBank is a huge advocate of women in business, and in fact, we have our own Key for Women program. This program advocates, connects, and provides strategic guidance, tools, and resources to women. We have monthly webinars, hold forums, and provide opportunities to network, all with the aim of helping women succeed in their financial goals. I'm looking forward to talking more about financing opportunities for growth and how to access those. I know there are people on this call that are from all over the country and in areas where KeyBank doesn't participate. So my goal is to provide some information to help you access those loan programs, whether it be through me and my bank or through other banks all across the nation, and kind of what we're looking for and how to prepare yourself for that. So I'm looking forward to the upcoming session. Thank you for having me, and I'll use up my 2 minutes. I'll get us ahead of schedule and pass it back to Terry now.
Good job, Jennifer. And you know what? I didn't start the timer, so I wasn't quite sure where you were, but you did good. Our next speaker is Alicia Griffey, and I would invite you to turn on your camera and introduce yourself and your organization.
Hi, Terry. Thanks so much for inviting me to be here today. My name is Alicia Griffey. I'm here obviously as a lender, but I have to admit, most of my career has been in the startup world myself as an operator. So I've been in the shoes of most of the people I'm assuming dialing in here who are building and growing companies and trying to figure out how to fund them. I spent a decade doing that. I was the CFO. I was the one trying to raise money. And so I developed a lot of opinions about what is and isn't working and how companies get funded and in who companies get funded and in what kinds of companies get funded. And so I decided 2.5 years ago to try and help change the way capital flew. So I founded my own investment firm. It's called Daintree Capital. And we don't just focus on providing capital to underrepresented founders, but we also focus on providing that capital through working capital loans because we believe they're a better fit for a lot of the types of companies that are run by women and people of color. My theory always has been, you know, it's great to say I want to invest in women, but if you also in the same breath say, and by the way, I only invest in SaaS businesses and with founders who are, you know, in Palo Alto, California, then all of a sudden it's really hard to actually have a diverse portfolio. So we instead invest through working capital loans because it allows us to invest in the kinds of businesses that women are often running. So if you think about all the different lending products out there, we live in the spot that is kind of, you know, company is up and running, they have revenue, but maybe they don't have quite enough money in the bank, or they don't have quite enough of a historical record in order to have access to more traditional bank loans, you know, lines of credit, et cetera. So for us, 100,000 in revenue to up to 2 million in revenue is kind of our sweet spot. And those are the companies that we focus on. And we lend to companies that have strong unit economics and also companies that have very specific growth investments that they're trying to make. that drive near-term revenue. So things like inventory financing or expansion into a new geography, or maybe you have a new customer contract that's come in, but you've got a forward hired to support that contract. Those are the kinds of things that we lend for, and our check size is between $10,000 and $75,000. So look forward to talking more about that, and excited to be here with this amazing group of people.
Thank you. Thank you, Alicia. You did very well. You still got 2 minutes. So anything else you want to share with us about your organization? And it's amazing that you founded this yourself to help fill the gap.
Well, just that, I'll say this. One of the things I've learned by now changing my career from being an operator to being an investor, and focusing on female founders, one of the amazing things I've learned is just how much we all want to help each other and the cooperative nature of it. So I love the fact that the chat's on fire. And I think part of hopefully what we can all figure out, and I think, you just heard it in the last comments too, all of us want to help you. And so whether it is with our company and our loan and our product, or whether it is connecting you to something else that we know about that might be helpful, I just encourage people to reach out, because in my experience, all of us are we just want to see more female CEOs in this world. At least that's what I want to see.
Nice. Well, thank you. Thank you for the work that you're doing, Alicia. At this time, I'd like to turn it over to Robin Dode. Robin, you can turn on your camera and introduce yourself and your organization.
Thank you, Terry. My name's Robin Dode, and I'm with Banner Bank out of Seattle, Washington. And I've been there. I just celebrated my 10th year, and the last 7 have been spent as an SBA lender. So I really appreciate this opportunity to say a few words about Banner, but even more so to say welcome to everyone who has joined us today for the Women's Funding Summit. It's just fantastic how many are registered and here online. And I hope everyone gains information and knowledge about how to fund your business, whether you are selling services or products or both. A bit about Banner. We've been serving the Western United States for over 130 years, and our branch network extends from the border with Canada to the border with Mexico. Our headquarters are here in Washington State, and we are considered a mid-sized community and commercial bank and have been honored to receive many awards, but perhaps the one I'm most proud of is that we've been named one of the top SBA lenders in the markets that we serve, and particularly Seattle, Portland, Oregon, and Sacramento, California. You can find SBA lending specialists in all of our major markets, which would be myself in Seattle, Portland, Oregon, Sacramento, California, Los Angeles, California, San Diego, California, and Boise, Idaho. And I'm happy to provide any of their names if you'd like to reach out to them personally. My role at the bank as an SBA lender is to help borrowers who are seeking an SBA loan for many purposes, including acquisitions of existing businesses, perhaps expansion of your business, perhaps a startup of a new business, partnership buyouts, and many other SBA eligible reasons. Today, I'll be on the panel discussing SBA's 3 unique export loan guarantee programs. These are loans that help commercial banks such as Banner make loans to businesses that are either expanding their export program or even someone who's just thinking about starting an export program. And that's the nice thing about the SBA guarantee program is you don't have to have a current export part of your business. All you have to do is have a plan to try and tap into that international marketplace. And we also have, several resources to put people in touch with other experts in the export field, and would be happy to get you connected to help get that export program off the ground. One of the additional benefits of the SBA export guarantee loan programs is that it gives a bank a 90% loan guarantee. And that differs from the 75% loan guarantees for the traditional 7A SBA loans. And of course, with that 15% extra guarantee, it does help the bank entertain additional companies and provide capital to companies that otherwise may not have qualified for traditional commercial bank funding. It's also important to know that an SBA export loan guarantee can help you whether you are the direct exporter or if you are selling products or services to a company who then turns around and exports those goods. Banner has an approachable and seasoned international banking team that focuses on developing solutions to ensure your international payments for the services or products that you have sold to international buyers are protected from the additional payment risk from selling internationally. Some of these programs include import and export letters of credit, import and export documentary collections. Both of these are financial instruments and will result in your buyer's bank essentially guaranteeing they will pay you for your services or products. They make the promise to Banner Bank, and then we facilitate payment of your account receivable between the banks. We also provide standby letters of credit and export credit insurance. So you can get insurance to cover the accounts receivable you create from your overseas sales. And last, we have foreign exchange forward contracts. This would help if you decided to broaden the market by being willing to accept your buyer's foreign currency as the payment as opposed to US dollars. And so with these products, you can lock into a guaranteed foreign exchange rate. Thanks so much again for allowing me to introduce myself and Banner Bank along with the SBA loans that I focus on. If anyone has any questions regarding SBA loans and in particular SBA export loan programs, I'm more than happy to follow up with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Robin. And you know what? I see a couple of folks, when you mentioned where you have locations, they've asked for contacts. So I just want to remind folks, you got an email, I believe this morning from Lisa White, and she has links to all of the organizations that we're featuring, and I believe their contact information, but we will definitely have her follow up and provide you with the contacts within their organizations to help you. And then also just want to remind you that she will be speaking again in the breakout session. So you might want to plan to join Robin's breakout session to get that information as well. Okay, so next up we have Johnny Price. Johnny Price, you can unmute yourself and turn on your camera and introduce your organization.
Great, thanks so much, Terry, and great to be here to speak with you guys today. My name is Johnny Price. I'm the VP of Fundraising at WeFunder. We're based here in San Francisco, where I'm calling you from today. We help startup founders and small business owners raise capital from their customers and community, as well as accredited investors and institutional investors. Historically, when startups raised capital, they were limited to raising from what the SEC calls accredited investors. That's basically rich people. But in 2012, Congress passed the Jobs Act, which now allows anyone to invest in startups and small businesses they love, not just rich people. This law is called regulation crowdfunding, and it allows founders like you guys to raise up to $5 million per year from unaccredited investors as well as accredited investors. And the other really interesting thing about this law is that it allows you to publicly promote the investment opportunity. So let's say you want to raise 200 grand to open a restaurant. Historically, you kind of had to privately pitch people, and you really were limited to kind of raising from millionaires and accredited investors. And now with WeFunder, you can put that 200K campaign on your Facebook page, and you can send an email to everyone in your network, and you can put a press release in the local paper. So through both allowing you to now raise from 100% of the population versus the richest 5% of the population, and by enabling you to use kind of marketing to promote the investment opportunity, we want to try to make it a little bit easier for entrepreneurs throughout the country to raise capital, whether they are tech startups or biotech companies or Main Street businesses like bars and restaurants and coffee shops. We've had movies raised on WeFunder. We've had soccer teams raised on WeFunder. The minimum on the platform is 50K. So you can raise between 50K and 5 million through this regulation crowdfunding law. We call it a community round, where you're raising capital from your community because we think it sounds better. The average company on WeFunder raises about $500,000. The median is more like $300,000. And the average investment amount on the platform is $1,000. So if you're raising 300 grand from your community, that might come from 300 people who are investing $1,000 each. And there's two things we think we can help entrepreneurs like you guys with. The first is this is kind of can help to accelerate the sometimes arduous process of raising capital for the reasons I mentioned earlier, and because we have 1.5 million investors on WeFunder that we put you in front of, and hopefully your company appeals to them and you can raise some money from our investor base. But the other thing we really want to try to do here is to say that if you can recruit an army of investors to invest in your company, that's going to be a way to delight your customers and increase their loyalty and turn them into really enthusiastic brand ambassadors and champions for what you're building. So this idea of like recruiting this army of champions is really central to what we do. We are a public benefit corporation at WeFunder and a B Corp. So we're a pretty mission-driven organization. Before WeFunder, I worked for a nonprofit called Kiva.org. We were making microloans to entrepreneurs throughout the country. Here at WeFunder, we're still in crowdfunding, but now doing much larger sums of money. But our mission is to expand access to capital for entrepreneurs kind of in aggregate, but also to try to level the playing field and address some of the ways in which some founders are underrepresented today. And obviously, if you look at the stats around venture capital and early stage capital going to women entrepreneurs, it's pretty egregious. And so we hope that a more democratic model of funding entrepreneurs and founders can help get more capital flowing to female entrepreneurs like you guys. So really excited to be here today. If you want to learn more, you can go to WeRaise. I'll put the link in the chat. And look forward to going into a little bit more detail with some of you guys in the breakout session later.
Thank you, Johnny. That's excellent. And you did great with your time. So appreciate that. Next up, we have Carrington Eubanks, who, Carrington, you can turn on your camera and unmute yourself and introduce Lendistry to us, which I'm really excited that Lendistry is here because I learned about Lendistry just through some community work that I was doing, and you guys are an awesome organ. And this is not an endorsement. I just put that out there, but I know you guys are doing some really awesome work in the community. So Carrington, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Terry. I appreciate that. Hello, everyone. My name is Carrington Eubanks, and I'm officed in Los Angeles, California. I am a former business banker turned Lendistry Senior Vice President of Strategic Partnerships. And all that means is I'm responsible to work with and through financial partners to leverage public and private capital so that Lendistry can deliver loan and grant products that support small businesses that need or want capital. Lendistry opened its doors in 2016, and we are headquartered in downtown Los Angeles. We currently have offices in California, New York, Maryland, Texas, and we're growing into more states right here in the near future. In summary, Lendistry is a minority-led, technology-enabled community development financial institution, also known in the industry as a CDFI, and we have a mission to provide economic opportunities and progressive growth to small business owners and their historically underserved communities. This includes small businesses owned by women. As the only fintech-enabled CDFI, Lendistry has both the technology and the community relationships to work directly with partner organizations to deliver capital to businesses that traditional banks are not able to serve on their own, usually due to regulatory and/or operational restrictions. Together, Lendistry and its partners provide historically underestimated small business owners with a pathway to success by providing equitable economic opportunities as a source of financing and financial education. Lendistry offers small business loans ranging from $50,000 all the way up to $5 million, and we lend in all 50 states. We offer term loans, non-revolving lines of credit, commercial real estate loans for both owner-occupied and investment properties, and lastly, SBA 7A loans. Eligible loan purposes include increasing working capital, expanding a small business, refinancing current debt, acquiring a existing business, financing commercial real estate, purchasing furniture, fixtures, supplies, and much more. To date, we have supported approximately 600,000 small businesses with almost $8.8 billion in grant and loan capital. And the Lendistry family looks forward to working with you as well. Thank you so much, everyone. And I'll pass it right back over to Terry.
Thank you, Carrington. Now you have more than 2 minutes left, so I'm going to ask you a quick question because I know some of the work you guys did here in California. Can you just briefly talk about what you guys did during the pandemic and how you were able to assist? Like, what does that look like? What did you guys do during the pandemic to help companies keep their doors open?
Sure. So in the state of California, we started with PPP loans. And at the time, we were only in the state of California. That was our footprint. And Everett Sands, our CEO, wrote to SBA 6 times asking if we could support all 50 states with PPP loans. And 6 times they said no. And the 7th time they finally said yes. And that's what kind of, I just wanted to say that because it demonstrates persistence and what persistence can do. And so in that moment, we were able to do PPP loans in all 50 states. So that's kind of how we started our national footprint. And then beyond that, we were able to support the state of California with their COVID-19 grant relief program. That grant relief program started with about $500 million that they wanted to deploy to small businesses across the state. And after we had the first 2 weeks, we had about over 300,000 applications. At that point, that is when the state increased their budget for COVID-19 grant relief programs and ended up ultimately being about a $4 billion program. So Lendistry was the single administrator of that capital, and that led to other opportunities. We did the same thing for the state of New York and their COVID-19 grant program, the city of New York, and it just kind of spread like wildfire from there. So Terry, I appreciate you allowing me to share that because what it is for Lendistry is we just want to be able to support small businesses with access to capital when access to capital is needed. And I think that doing things like this and being able to participate and share on platforms like this one, it really supports not building walls between organizations, but taking them down and saying, listen, if we can't do it, a partner can, and working together. So I think this is great. And I just wish all of you on the line the most success. And if I can be a part of that and Lendistry can be a part of that, we look forward to it.
Thank you, Carrington. I'm glad I'm glad you mentioned that because I think companies need to know like who are the people, because I think the average person wouldn't know that it was Lendistry that was doing this work. But I know you guys saved a lot of businesses when we were in the thick of the pandemic. So thank you for that. Next up, we have we have Elizabeth Eichhorn. You can please turn on your camera and introduce yourself and your organization. Thank you.
Thanks, Terry. Hi, everyone. I'm Elizabeth Eichhorn. I'm our Director of Sales at iFund Women. iFund Women is the go-to funding marketplace for women-owned businesses around the world. So we give you not only access to capital through crowdfunding, we are rewards-based crowdfunding. We'll talk about that a little bit more later. We have brokered grants and connections through our 7A partnership with 7A loans with our partnership with Annuity. But we also have connections. We know that it's a really, really big piece of owning a business, no matter if you are in your ideation phase or pre-revenue or proven demand. You need to know who it is that you should be speaking to help you ensure that you can actually move forward. So sometimes if you're in the early stages of a business, the right funding you might not know what it is. So attending events like this is really important, as well as making sure that you are connected to other people on iFund Women. And so not only do we have access to capital connections, we also have coaching, because not only is it about actually ensuring you get connections and the capital, you need to know what exactly is the education piece behind running a business. I had spent a very long time running my own business and realized the difficulty that is running this. So it does not matter if you are in school getting an MBA or what I did. The actual putting pen to paper is a bit difficult. And so we do have coaches at iFund Women to help ensure that you are making decisions that are best for your company. So iFund Women is kind of all over, and we have gotten to work with incredible businesses who are working in spaces like building their own co-working spaces, to grant partnerships with Johnny Walker, to also now we have new ones with Visa and making sure that women around the globe have access to capital. So that is iFund Women. So Terry, I will turn it back. Yeah.
Oh, great. Thank you. Now you still have more time too. You still have like 3 minutes, Elizabeth.
Oh, great. You can ask me a question too.
So tell us more. So is iFund Women a crowdsourced funding platform, or how do participants engage with you?
Great. So we are a rewards-based crowdfunding platform, and we actually teach you how to crowdfund on iFund Women. So you heard about other crowdfunding platforms earlier in this call, and there's differences between rewards-based and more of an equity-based crowdfunding. So make sure that you go and hear both of our conversations, so you'll see what is different about it. So
okay, great.
So yeah, come and hear from us and people who've crowdfunded with iFund Women. So yeah, so we have access to both crowdfunding and grants.
And now, are you in the startup part of the program, or are you in the growing part of the program?
Great question. So we are in both. We have opportunities for people who are in ideation. So this is really important for the startup itself. Oftentimes when you are hearing from lenders, SBA loan officers, and you are a brand new startup, you still need to figure out how are you going to get that loan. So if you do not have collateral, if you don't have 2 years of revenue, we're here for you. So we say, you have an idea, let's figure out how to get you some funding to help you get going. And just so you are aware, for people, I see this question has happened a few times, what is crowdfunding? So crowdfunding is when you raise small increments of money through lots of people to help you raise a specific goal.
Can you give us an example? You have one more minute, so
sure,
give us an example of crowdfunding.
Okay, I actually did do crowdfunding for my company. So let's say you are starting a new line of what I did, which was a new line of food products, and you are needing funding for manufacturing. I went ahead and decided to have rewards that are based off of that new product, and I was pre-selling them so people could pre-order that new food product. I was getting the money from lots of people that I know, so small increments of money, so then I could go into manufacturing of that product. So that is rewards-based crowdfunding. So it's an exchange of money. In exchange, you get a good and receive, goods or services.
Great, thank you so much. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Yeah. And I appreciate folks asking questions in the chat too, because that helps drive the conversation. And, don't be afraid to ask a question, because no question is like a dumb question. It's good. And if you have that question, chances are there's about 200 plus people that are on the line. Chances are there's someone else here that has the same question. So thank you. Okay, so next up we have, and this is last but not least, And I'm really excited about this firm too, the 22 Fund, because I know the founder of that one here in Los Angeles. But next up, we have Monica Doty. Monica, if you turn on your camera and introduce yourself and your organization, the floor is yours.
Okay, great. Well, thank you, Terry. It's nice to be here with you and with everybody. What a great group of strong women. It's always so encouraging to be surrounded with like-minded individuals. So it's a pleasure to be here. I'm a partner with the 22 Fund. Before I was involved with the 22 Fund, I just must say that I spent about 25 years on the other side of the table. I ran 4 different companies, both here in the United States and overseas for about 10 years. And I went to the other side of the table in terms of investment with SoftBank Venture Capital. And that's when I saw that I was the only woman in the room. And so diving deep and looking at the numbers, we saw that there is just a sheer lack of capital out there for women and people of color. So we started the 22 Fund, named after the 22 pobladores of Los Angeles. Those are the 22 adults of people of color that founded this thriving economic powerhouse that it is today. Thus, underlying our focus in diversity, that diversity brings strength, brings productivity, brings profitability, brings return on investment. Our focus is investing in women and people of color in manufacturing. So it's all about creating jobs and expanding the global footprint. We see that there's an equity gap post-seed and Series A. So we see that women and people of color have difficulty raising money once they get going, once they've proven the market, once they've seen that there is demand for their products and they need working capital to expand their inventories, to expand their production facilities, to hire more people. So we consider ourselves holistic investors, that we're all about creating jobs in clean tech, green tech, across all sectors of the economy, across the United States. We're also taking advantage of certain trends, that is the greening of America, that people really want to, buy products that are healthy, that are green, to sort of change the ways that will help our planet. We also see the trend of reshoring into America in terms of supply chains that were broken during the pandemic, that now people want to start manufacturing here. And so we are providing capital to companies that really want to expand their footprint overseas. For example, we've invested in a company that replaces single-use plastics based here in Los Angeles. They manufacture all around the world, but they also have manufacturing facilities here in the United States. And their intention is to bring even more manufacturing here in the United States, so they have more, more control of the processes, as well as the innovation. A lot of it is also about protecting your intellectual property as you expand. And when you're closer to where you manufacture things, you just have better insights on how to make a better product and compete on a global basis. We've invested in a company up in Portland that does electric charging stations, and that's for fleets. And the CEO is an African-American man who is planning to manufacture 100% here in the United States and provide electric charging stations throughout the United States. We've also invested in a company that replaces food waste with, that turns food waste into fertilizers. She is an African-American woman based in New York, and we see that there's a huge trend. She's generated a lot of interest from large-scale agricultural companies. So these are just a few examples of the different kinds of industries that we focus on. Today, we're going to be talking with another company that we've invested in called Sienna Naturals. Hannah Diop is the CEO, and her partner is Issa Rae. And they've created hair products for women with textured hair that are clean and natural. And so we will be discussing the whole process that we've gone through in terms of funding her and her company, and the kinds of questions that we look for from entrepreneurs that have already reached a certain point in terms of success, but they need to think bigger, grow faster, think globally, and expand their product line, but without hurting the planet and also at the same time creating jobs. So anyway, I'm really excited. And I think we're at the cutting edge of where all forces are coming together. And thus, that's why we believe we're a holistic investor. We see there's a tremendous amount of opportunity. These are people that are typically overlooked by traditional investors. And we're equity investors. We don't give loans, but we really focus on partnering with the leaders that of tomorrow. So looking forward to it.
Thank you, Monica. And I do know that you guys are doing amazing work, and I'm always in awe of what you've accomplished so far. So thank you for being with us here today. I want to just note that we have one more funding platform or venture capital firm. The gentleman, Ben Lee, is a managing director of Circle Up Growth Partners. He'll be presenting along with the founder and CEO of NutPods, Madeline Hayden, during the last breakout session in the Blue Room. He's not able to be here today for the introduction part. So if you are interested, please plan to join their session. I just want to thank all of our lenders and our funders and investors. Those are great overviews. I'm sure once you go back and you see the chat, there were a lot of shout outs and great impressions of what your organizations are doing. At this point, I'm going to turn the program back over to Melissa, and we're right on time. We got like 3 minutes before we do our breakout sessions, and Melissa's going to give us an overview of this. She's going to give us a Zoom tech instructions on how you select your next session. And again, they'll begin in about 2 minutes now, which is 10:15 a.m. here on the Pacific West Coast, but 1:15 p.m. Eastern, 12:15 Central. And what is that? Mountain time is 11:15. So we're trying to manage all the time zones and everything. And I just want to give a special shout out. I wrote this down. I have colleagues from throughout the U.S. field that are on. I think I mentioned them earlier, but they're going to be in each of these breakout sessions. So we have Jessica Gordon from Dallas, Texas, Monica Toporkowitz, she's from Chicago, Illinois, Elizabeth Ahern, she's from Peoria, Illinois, Lisa Forbes from Miami, Florida, Julianne Hennessy from right here in Los Angeles, Patty Brewer, who I think is with SBA, but I'm shouting you out too, Patty. Also Kendra Kuo from our office in Michigan, and Ludwika Alvarez, who is based in San Francisco. So I'm so excited to be joined by all of our colleagues from across the field, lady colleagues from across the field that will be moderating and leading these discussions. So with that, I turn it back over to Melissa, and thank you guys for joining this plenary session today.
Thank you so much, Terry. Thank you. And thank you to all of the panelists and the lenders for the great previews of their organizations and programs. I'm going to go ahead and stop